27 years ago, my mom spent a semester of college studying abroad in Scotland. During her stay there, she had the opportunity to meet and teach alongside a woman whose name is May Laurie. Over the course of the semester, the two of them became good friends, and when my mom left Scotland to come back home, she and May started to keep in touch through letters. Time went on, and the technology of social media began to improve, allowing people thousands of miles away to communicate in a single second. Yet, even today, the only contact that May and my mom have are through letters. Every year around the holidays or special events, my family and I receives a brown paper package tied up with string all the way from Scotland. In these packages is a handwritten letter from May detailing which little gift or craft is for who and updating my mom on her life. Every time we read these letters, I am always amazed at how seemingly impeccable her handwriting and grammar is. By now, you're probably wondering why I'm standing up here talking about these letters from somebody you don't even know. Good question, and honestly, I had to think about that one myself. Why do I find these letters and packages so special? Why does anybody? Well, it is this question that I am aiming to answer, and the lost art of letter writing that I want to explore. My generation has been born into the greatest age of technological advancement in history. Most of you have a smartphone in the back of your pocket which you could pull out right now and check the time, weather, political announcements, and even the current status of your pets at home. Amazing, isn't it? So why should we care about a little piece of paper that takes forever to send in comparison to a 5-second text? A few months ago, I started reading Jane Austen's literary masterpiece of Pride and Prejudice for my omnibus class, which is a history, literature, and theology class rolled into one. In one of the sessions, the lesson was entirely focused on something that I wasn't quite expecting: letters. If you have read Pride and Prejudice, you know that letters play a huge role in the plot of the book. In fact, at the climax, it is a letter that reveals Mr. Darcy to be in love with Elizabeth, contrary to his previous character. Now, Austen could have chosen a number of ways to get Mr. Darcy's feelings across. So why did she choose a letter? The same question could be asked about the New Testament epistles. Many people's favorite books of the Bible are in fact not books at all, but letters written to a specific group of people hundreds of years ago. My favorite book of the Bible is Colossians, a letter which Paul writes to the people of Colossae. In my NIV Bible, Colossians takes up 2 full pages. I have read these 2 pages over and over again, because every time I read it, I feel like it was written especially for me. And it was, but Paul didn't know that. He was simply writing what God had told his heart to write. And that is the answer to why a letter. Letters are written from the heart, specifically to another person. In my omnibus lesson, my teacher did an interview with a friend of his whose name is Melissa Cummings. When asked what makes letter writing so special, she answered, "It's looking at that person on a piece of paper. This is a piece of someone's heart that they've written out. They're communicating something from inside of them that's being poured into you." What does she mean by this? Can't you do the same thing through an action? Write the same words that you would in a letter into a text? Well, yes, but have you ever gotten as excited about a text as you have been about getting a letter? And no, I'm not talking about those annoying flyers telling you about the next upcoming pizza and pre-plan that the local funeral house is hosting. I'm talking about a personal letter, written with a pen and not a printer. Pen and not a printer. Most people today probably only write handwritten letters for yearly events such as birthdays and holidays. And even then, it's common to get a pre-written, overly sappy Hallmark card and scribbling your name in the designated area. Not much thought goes into this process. You might be thinking, well, what about personal texts? Those take much more thought to write out a message that is unique to that particular person, and definitely more thought to pick out the correct emojis to get your point across. Trust me, I'm not saying that any of these things are bad, but can we all agree that though these may be convenient and easy options for our everyday communication, there is something special about receiving a letter. We don't often keep Hallmark cards or texts, but we do keep letters. Why? Is it just because that there's not enough data space in our phone, or is it something else? Claire Gibson, who wrote an article called The Art of Letter Writing on styleblueprint.com says that letter writing is an art form. If somebody sends us a piece of art, we don't quickly throw it away. We frame it, hang it up, or put it on a shelf so that we can admire it for a long time, much like keeping a letter in a secure box in a safe place. August of 2017, I went to an all-girls camp in Colorado where I met 4 girls who became my best friends. Now, as a homeschooler, I have a lot of long-distance friendships. But one of the things that made these 4 girls stand out from the rest of them is that we write each other letters. Well, maybe I shouldn't call them letters, they're more like essays. Whenever I receive one of these letters, I know that they have taken time out of their day to sit down, choose their tools carefully, and write a thoughtful, intentional letter that's specifically meant for me. And it really is like looking at them on a piece of paper. From the handwriting to the choice of pen ink, it reflects who they are. The other thing is that these letters contain part of our personal history. Simon Garfield asks in his book, To the Letter, should our personal history, the proof of our emotional existence, reside in a cloud server on some American plane, or should it reside where it has always been, scattered amongst our physical possessions? And with the history of our lives comes the history of the time we are in. Much of the information through which we have obtained the history of the world has come from letters. Take the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Pliny the Younger wrote a letter to his mentor Tacitus about the details of the event. At the end of his letter, Pliny writes this: "Of course, these details are not important enough for history, and you will read them without any idea of recording them." Little did he know that this letter would become crucial to our understanding of the event, giving us the only written account of the phenomenon. Without letters, we wouldn't have a lot of the information or first-hand accounts of the Titanic. Imagine a world without Celine Dion's "My Heart Will Go On," or the iconic pose at the edge of the ship. Thank God for letters like John Snyder's, which were sold as part of a rare letters and photos from the Titanic bundle at an auction for $100,570, according to CBSNews.org. So far, we've covered why letters are so important and the importance of keeping the physical aspect of our history, which is all very interesting, but what's the point? When God created man, he created him in his image, gifting us with unique characteristics that set us apart from the other creatures on this earth. One of those characteristics was the aspect of a creator. It's the aspect of a creator. We are called to glorify God with everything we do, and that also means with our creations. One of those creations are our words. What am I getting at? Martin Cawthron, an author for Memoria Press, recently wrote an article called On the Incarnation of Words, where he says, the act of creation necessarily involves physicality, a principle that is made problematic in digital information. Our lives and our words were never meant to be simply material. Our lives are a beautiful story, written by a beautiful creator, and I believe the material on which some of the most important parts of our lives reside are meant to reflect this beauty. As we end our journey through the lost art of letter writing, I'd like to remind you of this. 2 Corinthians 3:2-3. You yourselves are our letter, known and read by everyone. You show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. Not with tablets of stone, but on tablets